The weight of his father's words hangs heavy in the air, each syllable laced with warning. Taehyung maintains his calm demeanor, his mind working to deflect the subtle attack. He has long grown accustomed to these veiled confrontations, where business and personal affairs become inseparably entwined in the power dynamics of their family. I understand the responsibilities, father, and am committed to ensuring that nothing impacts the company's reputation. Taehyung replies with measured resolve, though the tension in his voice is palpable. His eyes remain locked with his father's, a silent challenge exchanged between them. His father leans back in his chair, surveying Taehyung as though weighing the truth in his words. I hope you do. Because reputation, once tarnished, can be difficult to restore. We built this empire on a foundation of integrity and strategic alliances. The man's voice softens only slightly, but the sternness remains. Don't let personal indulgences derail what generations before you have worked to secure. Taehyung's chest tightens. He knows the double meaning behind those words. This isn't just about the affair or his personal life, it's about who he is and the choices that define him in his father's eyes. His thoughts flicker to Jungkook, the one person who makes him feel alive outside these suffocating walls. Their relationship is a sanctuary from the crushing weight of his corporate obligations, but it's also a source of conflict, a trigger for his father's judgment. But Taehyung's resolve doesn't waver. I'll make sure nothing casts a shadow on our name. His voice, firm and steady, signals that while he may not meet his father's expectations in every aspect, he knows his own path. Mr. Kim nods slowly, as if conceding the round, but there's no warmth in his approval, only the cold calculation of a businessman appeased for now. See that you do. The meeting concludes on that note, both men standing from their chairs. There are no pleasantries exchanged, just the finality of duty-bound acknowledgement. Taehyung turns to leave, the echo of his footsteps punctuating the silence, but before he reaches the door, his father speaks again. Taehyung, he pauses, turning halfway. Remember what's at stake. Taehyung nods once, tight-lipped, and steps out of the office, leaving behind the heavy silence of unspoken expectations and unresolved tensions. Outside the glass-walled office, the city looms large, and somewhere beyond it, Jungkook waits, his only reprieve from the life he can never fully escape. Taehyung's pulse quickens, though he fights to maintain the outward calm that years of these exchanges have ingrained in him. His father's words are barbed, designed to wound, but Taehyung knows better than to lash out. His gaze remains steady, though inside, a storm brews. Living authentically shouldn't be a luxury, father, he says, voice low but firm. It should be a right. For me, for everyone. Kim Development is the chance to be more than just another corporation, more than just profit margins and legacy. We can set an example. Mr. Kim's eyes flash with something unreadable, though his expression remains cold and controlled. Idealism, he mutters, almost dismissively. You speak like someone who doesn't understand the complexities of this world. I've seen men torn down because they clung too tightly to notions like authenticity and idealism. Do not confuse your personal desires with the greater good of the company. Taehyung takes a slow breath, reining in the impulse to argue. His father, for all his success, will never understand. The corporate world his father has thrived in is built on masks and facades, on power and public perception. Taehyung, though raised in the same environment, longs for something more meaningful, something real. I understand more than you think, Taehyung replies, keeping his voice measured. I know what's at stake, and I'm not taking this lightly. But there's more to leadership than maintaining appearances. Real leadership is about guiding people through change, not clinging to outdated notions. His father's face tightens at this, but Taehyung presses on. The world is changing, and you can either adapt or be left behind. I'm not suggesting recklessness, but evolution. Inclusivity doesn't have to be at odds with success. In fact, it can drive it. Mr. Kim's silence is telling, his steely gaze unwavering. When he speaks again, his voice is colder than before. Perhaps you've forgotten that you were raised to preserve this empire, not transform it into a social experiment. The board, the shareholders, they don't care about your notions of inclusivity. They care about results. And if you continue down this path, you'll find that loyalty has its limits. Taehyung absorbs the threat, the implication that his position, his very place in the company, is not as secure as he might think. It's a familiar refrain, do as you're told, or be replaced. But Taehyung refuses to be cowed. If that's the case, then maybe we need to redefine what success looks like, he says, holding his father's gaze. Because a company that doesn't stand for something will eventually stand for nothing. A heavy silence settles between them, thicker than before. Neither man is willing to back down, and the divide between them, both ideological and personal, grows more pronounced. The room feels smaller, the distance between them greater than ever. Mr. Kim finally stands, his posture rigid and imposing. I trust you'll make the right decision for the company, Taehyung. But remember this, your personal crusade comes with a price. Be sure you're willing to pay it. Without waiting for a response, his father walks past him, the door clicking shut behind him. Taehyung remains in the office, the weight of the conversation bearing down on him. He knows this fight is far from over, and the cost of staying true to himself may be higher than he ever imagined. But as he looks out over the city, his resolve hardens. Some things are worth the risk. The silence that follows is suffocating, as if the weight of the decades-old expectations threatens to crush Taehyung. His father, still a looming figure of tradition and authority, stares at him with an impassive gaze, as though all of Taehyung's words have fallen on deaf ears. I've given you everything, Mr. Kim continues, his voice soft but cold. Opportunities, wealth, a position of power in this world. And all I ask is that you protect the family's legacy. But it seems you're intent on throwing it all away for what? A fleeting sense of self-fulfillment. Taehyung's jaw clenches, every muscle in his body tense with the effort of containing his fury. It's not just about me, father. It's about more than living up to some legacy that doesn't even see me for who I am. I've spent my entire life being what you wanted, what this company needed, but I'm done living for someone else's ideals. Done. His father's voice is sharp now, the words laced with incredulity. You think you can just walk away from this? From all that has been built for you? You're deluding yourself if you think this will end well. No matter where you go or what you choose, the world will still judge you. Taehyung. Taehyung shakes his head, his voice rising in a rare display of emotion. Maybe. But I'm willing to face that. I'd rather be judged for being honest about who I am than spend another day hiding in the shadow of a lie. His breath hitches, emotion choking his voice for a moment before he composes himself. I won't let you dictate my life anymore. The finality in his tone seems to catch his father off guard, but only for a moment. Mr. Kim's face hardens, his mouth set in a grim line. then you'll find out soon enough that walking away from this family comes with consequences. He stands abruptly, the sharp movement sending a clear signal that this conversation is over. You can be true to yourself all you want, but don't expect me to stand by as you dismantle everything that has been built. You've made your choice, Taehyung. Don't think you'll be able to come back when the weight of it all becomes too much. Taehyung meets his father's eyes one last time, the sting of his words barely registering now that the decision is made. I'm not asking for your approval. I never was. But I won't live like this anymore. With that, Taehyung turns on his heel and strides towards the door, feeling the heavy chains of expectation loosening with each step. He pauses briefly at the threshold, not looking back, before stepping out into the hallway. The sound of the door closing behind him feels like the sealing of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another. The cold air of the city hits him as he exits the building, a welcome contrast to the stifling atmosphere he's left behind. For the first time in years, despite the chaos swirling around him, Taehyung feels a strange sense of liberation. He knows the path ahead won't be easy. His father's words echo ominously in his mind, but it will be his own. And for that, it's worth the fight. Taehyung's face flushes with a mix of frustration and resolve. His father's words, dripping with cruelty, cut deep, but he refuses to let them derail him. His breath comes in measured but tense intervals as he steps closer, looking his father in the eye. The continuation of our family isn't just about biology, Taehyung says, his voice now calm but firm. It's about values. It's about what we stand for. I won't reduce the idea of family to something as basic as producing an heir. I'll build a legacy based on truth, love, and acceptance. That's the inheritance I want to pass down. His father scoffs, his smirk never leaving his face. Truth and love, he mocks. These are just words you use to justify your selfishness. This family didn't get where it is by indulging in feelings. We built an empire on discipline, on duty, on hard choices, sacrifices you clearly aren't willing to make. I have made sacrifices, Taehyung snaps, the anger finally spilling over. For years, I lived under your expectations, followed your rules. I married someone I didn't love, upheld the image you wanted, but it was never enough. And now, after all this time, I realize that the real sacrifice is living a life for the sake of appearances. Mr. Kim shakes his head, a cold chuckle escaping his lips. Sacrifices? What you've done is indulge yourself, son. You've abandoned your responsibilities to the family. You talk about truth, but the truth is, you're turning your back on everything we've worked for. Taehyung straightens, standing taller than before. What we've worked for is meaningless if it costs us who we are. I won't live my life pretending to be someone I'm not just to keep you and the shareholders happy. If that means I'll lose your respect or the company's support, then so be it. But I won't lose myself. For the first time, a flicker of something unreadable crosses his father's face, but it's gone as quickly as it came. He rises from his chair, moving slowly around his desk, his hands clasped behind his back. You really believe you can survive in this world on principles alone? That the board, the investors, society, will accept your choices without consequence? You're naive, Taehyung. The world doesn't change because you wish it so. Taehyung's expression hardens. I know the risks, and I'm ready to face them. I'd rather build something new, something meaningful, than preserve a legacy that doesn't reflect who I am or what I believe in. This company could be part of that change, if you'd allow it. His father pauses, staring at him with a mixture of disappointment and cold pragmatism. You've always been a dreamer, Taehyung, but dreams don't sustain a dynasty. If you walk this path, you'll do it alone. Don't expect this family, or this company, to stand by you. The words are like a final blow, a severing of ties that have bound them for so long. But instead of breaking, Taehyung feels an odd sense of clarity, a lightness in his chest. I've already been alone for a long time, he says quietly, more to himself than to his father. But that ends now. With a final glance at the man who had once defined his life, Taehyung turns and walks toward the door. The silence in the room is deafening, but his resolve is unshaken. As he steps into the hallway, he knows there's no turning back, but for the first time, that thought fills him with hope rather than fear. He is free. The air between them crackles with tension as Taehyung meets his father's cutting gaze with unwavering determination. His chest heaves from the raw outpouring of emotion, but he stands tall, resolute in his defiance. His father, still seated, taps his fingers together, as if amused by Taehyung's outburst. So, that's it then? You're willing to forsake everything, your family, your legacy, the future you've been groomed for, over some delusion of love with a man who will never truly belong to this world? Our world. Taehyung's jaw clenches, but he refuses to back down. Jungkook doesn't have to belong to your world. I don't even want to belong to it anymore. This world you cling to is nothing but a cage built from arrogance and tradition, and I won't live in it.